You miss it.
Good morning.
Did you just cut our intro short?
No, I didn't do that. That was BJ was logging in at the time, so I blame him.
We'll blame BJ.
BJ
ruined our intro, my jam session. All
right, good morning. What's going on?
Morning. I gotta tell you, I gotta give some advice to people.
Okay.
I am on what day is it? Wednesday? 3, I think, of completely disengaging with any and all social media fighting.
Nah.
It's wonderful. I highly recommend it. Only looking at content that is funny, inspiring, uplifting. Now, obviously, I'm still served some political content. It's going to take a while for the algorithm to calm down. But anything where someone's like arguing about the Super Bowl or arguing about a politician or arguing about it, I was like, nope, let me go find something funny to watch. I highly recommend
all
this.
Day.
Otters, puppies, home decor, some dark humor. Because let's face it, dark humor is funny. It just is. You know, I'll share those things all day. But the moment I'm like, here's how I feel about that, don't care. I don't care. And let me be clear. I'm not telling people to totally disengage from the world. By all means, you can still stay informed and hear the main headlines and what's going on and have a sense of that. But the moment it is now no longer, all right, I received some information about what's going on in our world, and it becomes, now let me see what the internet has to say about it. Shut that down. What a waste.
I say it lasts 7 days. I give you a week.
Yeah?
Yeah. I don't think, honestly, I think the human psyche has changed. I think the addiction is going to get the better of you. And I get, every once in a while you need to disconnect and move away from it and get some, honest, virtuous content. But your brain will go to the drama.
Go back to the drama?
You totally will.
I don't know. It's really great without it.
Okay.
Now, and I will admit, there is a real addiction to just the doom scroll. And when I started this, when I realized Sunday night that I'm gonna not let a Super Bowl ruin my life,
right,
or internet fighting, I had originally thought I'm gonna go ahead and stop doom scrolling altogether. And there is a real strong habit to break there where I would have to put my phone upstairs if I'm sitting downstairs because the urge to just do this is so, it's without even thinking.
And
it's
that's
automatic.
The warning that if human beings are going to be replaced with AI, right, all they would need to do is keep human beings occupied with something that is mindless so the AI can do its thing. So you are choosing that. That is something when I say go back 5 years and decide not to let AI be unpackaged, since we didn't do that and what I said was going to happen, now I'm saying if you are connected into if you look through your, time spent in front of a screen and if it's longer than 1 hour per day, right?
Yeah.
You are giving AI the pass, right? My kid put a little, he puts in there how many hours he wants. It asks the question, how many hours a day do you want to dedicate to looking at your phone, right? Mm-hmm. And he puts the number of hours. And as soon as that hits, the app says, you hit your allotted time. Do you want to go further? Right?
Interesting.
Nobody would put, I want to, we live maybe 85 years, right? 85 is a good number for.
I've actually heard the average lifespan is 75.
Well, we'll say 85. I'm going to give the benefit of doubt, 85 years.
Okay.
And you got 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Now, if you would actively say, where do you want to allocate and budget the time in your life? Do you want to spend 8 hours sleeping? Cool. Take that off for the table. Do you want to do some live math here?
If you do the math.
All right.
Maybe I'll get the ability to do math when I block out the bull crap in my brain.
If you live 85 years.
What happens next?
Hours do you live?
See, even AI is math.
Oh, there's going to be more. There's going to be more because we're going to basically take some math figures and find out how much real usable time you have while you're alive if you're 85.
Because it's interesting while it's thinking, and I'm glad even the internet has to wait to do math. I do. My phone will tell me. I don't even ask it. It just tells me every weekend you average this many hours of screen time a day. And the last message I got was 4 hours a day. I'm not even doing anything. Just mindless drivel.
So we'll say 750,000 hours in your lifetime. Okay, so you got 750,000 hours to spend.
Yeah. 750,000 hours.
If you sleep 8 hours a day, how many hours in 85 years? Okay, so that's a third. So 750,000. You got 250,000 off the table. You got 500,000 left. Mm-hmm. All right. So now, out of your 500,000 of remaining hours, right?
Oh my God.
Let's just say you're on your phone. How many hours would you say? Let's
My phone told me it was 4.
4 hours a day.
It said I average 4 hours a day.
Okay.
I was
And
like,
how old are you?
holy crap. I'll be 42 next week. 2 weeks.
So you
Yeah.
got
So 42.
All right. So you got 40 years remaining bore I off you.
What?
Yeah.
What?
How many hours are there in 40 years? Okay, so you've got 350,000 hours. A third of that, let's say 2/3
Math.
of
Good Lord, we're hitting a math lesson today.
350,000. Okay, so awake time you have 233,000 hours.
This
remaining.
number's just getting lower and
so
lower.
remember 233,000. If you spend 4 hours,
Like it said, we're not even accounting for leap years.
times 40 years. Okay. So you will spend, of that 130, you will spend 140,000 of those hours in front of your device. Is that so? You know, is that a worthwhile expense of time? Is really comes down to it.
I'd have to say depends on what you're consuming. You can make it worthwhile, like when you spend your Saturdays learning about things about
Right.
the world, or you can sit there and doom scroll mindless brain rot and then no, it's not worth it.
So there was a book I read when I was in my 20s, and this author sat down with, I think, 80 dying patients in a hospital. And all they talked about was regrets, right?
Yeah.
What you would have done different. And like, you know, let's just say you're on your deathbed, you got like 2 weeks to live. How many hours a day are you going to say, I'm going to mindlessly get into my phone and just doom scroll? You're going to waste those, you know, precious 2 weeks on the phone? But
No.
because we think it's unlimited, we think
Yeah.
that we can just, you know, there's so much of it, let's just waste it. I remember when I used to buy pallets of water, right? Pellegrino was my jam. I love Pellegrino, and I would just buy it in the pallets. So I had
So
tons of
bougie.
it, right? And what I noticed is when I had a whole pallet of it, like I would waste it like crazy.
Water your plants with it.
Like waste it like crazy. But then it got scarce in 2019, and it was hard to get, and so I had to buy little cases of it. And when I thought it was scarce, like I would drink that whole thing. There would be no wasting because it didn't feel like there was enough of it, right? And so like the frame of mind is that most people being given an 85-year, you know, runway will waste the shit out of it because they think it's unlimited. They won't realize that it's not unlimited until they only have one case left.
Yeah, and I think I apply that to a lot of things. I mean, like with my kids, we have had days and evenings where my husband and I are both like, you ever just have a day where you're like, I am overstimulated, there's too much noise, there's too much going on, and I'm trying to relax. And we've literally yelled at our kids to just be quiet. And they're not fighting, they're not doing anything wrong. We say, you're making noise just to make noise. And we'll be like, stop it. And then my brain will go, you realize they're going to be out of the house in like probably single digit years. You realize that the rest of your life, you will be in a quiet house because your kids are grown and in their own homes. And I'm like, God dang it. Like, as you were, yell, run up and down the stairs, slam the door, play with the dog. Like when you realize there is like single digit years left of this chaos and then that's it forever. I'm like, holy crap.
Yeah. But I don't mind it because I mean the more that normies out there are wasting all of their time and whatever, I mean the competition gets so easy because everybody's so crushable because they're so delicate now and they have no ambition and they waste all of their time. All you have to do is not do that and you win by freaking default.
Yeah.
So like I'm teaching my kid when I get into crush mode is that you just observe what the habits of other people are. Right. And use that to your advantage because there's, we're sort of like we go from apathy to crisis. Right. In short stints, we figure it out and we know that we need to jump on things and get things done and take things serious and whatever. And as long as there's not a crisis, we go into life wasting apathy mode. And that's where most people live their entire lives. No wonder people are depressed. People have, bad thoughts and, they're miserable. Is because, once we're conditioned that you have an overseer in your parents, an overseer and a teacher. And once you get out on your own, you just can go be as destructive as you want to be. And most of it's pointed inward. Like we destroy our mind. We destroy our ambition. We let politics and the rest of the world tell us that things are hopeless. Like I want people to think that time is scarce and take advantage of it. But at the same time, like once you have a stage of usable time, like make the best of it.
Yeah. And here's why I don't think I'll last only a week. Why I think this is going to...
Can I put it in an envelope?
Yeah.
Okay.
But then this is bias. Now I'm going to make sure that I last longer than a week just to prove you wrong.
Listen, if that is the case, then I will have been your coach and I will have ushered you into another week there's no downside.
I went gluten-free almost 2 years ago and have never backslid.
This addiction is way different.
It is a stronger addiction, I think. But another thing I realized too, and you're probably going to disagree with this.
I will. I already disagree.
I really think that it's a thing. I think if people do something that changes the way they feel, it will be a stronger change than trying to change the way you think. And I say that because, we've talked before, like there's this quote, I think it was Maya Angelou, says, when you know better, you do better. And I just don't believe that's true because we all know what we should do. We all know we only have so many thousand hours left.
You are fighting against 4 chemicals in your brain, right? That have to have an expression, right?
Right.
So let's just say dopamine being the strongest one. Mm-hmm. Dopamine is, as a primitive species that we are, it makes you do stuff, right?
Yeah.
And all we've done is figured out how to get the prize without the doing stuff part. And what we've created is an insensitivity to accomplishment. So you used to have to like work through something to get the prize at the end. And we were like, hey, we really like the dopamine thing. Let's like let other people do things and us still get that chemical. Well, here's what happens when you create that insensitivity. It's impossible for you to pick up a board game and get the same dopamine you rush as get someone, doing a high-speed chase on a freeway, right? Why would you? Because that takes actual effort. And as we get apathetic and lazy, we go after the sure thing, short stint, whatever. And that's why...
but I don't think that's irreversible.
It is irreversible unless you do one thing, which no one will do. And that's why I say it's impossible. You have to then quiet the rest of the dopamine expressions that you get, or else you'll be right back on that bandwagon. So that quiet is exactly what you need. The boredom is exactly what you need. Yep. You need to turn off the TV, no flashing lights and no brightness and no sounds, right? And then you allow your brain to quiet down, and then it'll express itself in a quiet manner. But the minute that you go back to loud and angry and drama and whatever, you're back on that bandwagon because nothing else will compare to that.
Yeah, and again, I think that it's not irreversible because it's gonna be difficult. It's gonna be hard. But if you're committed to it, like anything else you want to change.
But you'll do it. You can't help it. You have to walk outside. You have to be around other people. You have to be in environments, and that's your fix.
Yeah. I'm saying if you've got to have a fix, get a fix in a healthier manner, at least for the time being.
Like what? Give me an example of something that if you wanted to express it in a way that was not destructive.
I mean, a small example I'm doing now is, am I still going to scroll on my phone? Yes. That addiction is so strong, it's going to take time. But am I going to fight with somebody, or am I going to read a funny story or watch a funny video? I'm going to read a funny story or watch a funny video. I'm going to stop the fighting. Am I going to read the news and read an article about somebody giving their political opinion that I may disagree with, and it's going to get me mad and be rage bait? No. I'm going to, I don't know, read a Bible story or read this interesting book somebody gave me or read this other thing that isn't rage bait and focus my attention there. You're still having to put your attention and your focus on something, but change the content as a baby step to start changing other things.
Yeah. 1 week. This is great in principle, but it's much like you get to the end of the year and I'm going to go to the gym, right?
And guess what? I have been working out for over a year consistently. I have been gluten-free for almost 2 years. I have done things, hard things, and stuck with it, and it's not impossible.
I believe in you, but I'm still saying that you're going to not have your gym membership in a month. Why a
month when I've been doing it over a year?
Not this, though. This is a different thing. This
I
is an
am
animal,
admitting
it is
a stronger addiction, 110%.
Okay. Well,
it will be a harder
we'll let the
fight.
data play out. I won't intervene. I'll watch it play out. And what is today? Wednesday? Next Wednesday, we'll have a conversation.
That I'm fighting with strangers
on
the
just
internet?
Give me an update. I won't even really prompt you. I'll just be like, how's it going? And then you'll say, yeah, I fell off the bandwagon. And now
I punched somebody over something they said.
I couldn't help it. It was too strong.
I got sucked in.
I started shaking.
And I think, too, like I said, feeling will always trump what you know. Like, if you feel motivated to work out, you'll work out. It might be 1 or 2 days and then it's gone, but you'll do it and you won't when you won't. The feeling drives you, not knowing you should. You already know you should. When you feel motivated, you'll do it. How many times, I don't know if it's still a thing. I haven't been to a Starbucks drive-thru in a while, but there used to be these trends of the pay it forward where somebody would pay for you and somebody would pay for you. How many times did a stranger do something nice for you and you instantly wanted to go do it for someone else?
Yeah.
Because the feeling will drive you.
Absolutely. The short-term fixes are not part of it.
I mean, I can remember getting involved with my church and doing a lot with church. Uh-oh, is my mic too loud? Is it too hot? Anywho, getting involved with some things. And listen, I'm a loud animated person, okay? And if you don't like it, you can keep scrolling. This is me.
Sassy Kelin.
You know that song from, This Is Me from The Greatest Showman? I might have made that up. Yeah. Anywho.
No, that totally is.
As I was saying, Kim, lost my train of thought.
While you're thinking, Julie says, am I wasting 2 hours a day here? Joe allowed me to be censored by Luke yesterday, and BJ complied. Is that a first? I didn't realize you were censored. Did you get deleted?
Julie,
I know he
nobody
disagreed
better
with you. I heard that
censor
come up,
you.
but I didn't see. Nobody censors Julie. I will stand up for Julie.
Listen, if you are ever censored on this show, I'll tell you right now, it was most likely something we missed or did on accident, because we try not to let... We don't push anyone out of our conversation unless it's clearly like a bot or somebody trolling.
Spammers are the only ones that get booted, and everybody else.
And Julie, did you send me that letter yet? Because I haven't received it yet. So let me know if you sent it.
Julie, no, you are not wasting your days here. This experiment with talk radio is that conversations need to be had. Uncomfortable things need to be said.
Yep.
We need to have the confrontation while staying reasonable. And that's why you are one of my favorite disagreeers, because you have a way of disagreeing with me, staying engaged, and not getting it uncivil.
You don't say, you stupid head, I'm taking my ball and going home.
You present yourself well, and you're appreciated. So go ahead. What were you saying?
But yeah, I was saying basically you're driven by what you're feeling rather than what you know. Feelings can motivate people to act. And even if it's temporary, it's stronger than just getting information.
Okay.
Which is why I think there is hope, because I've done things in the past that made me feel happy and made me feel good. And when I get away from it, and I'm miserable, I'm like, I'm miserable. Why don't I go do what makes me happy again? It's so interesting. A friend of mine on Facebook the other day, she was again frustrated because she was fighting with people and getting into political arguments. And she's like, I miss happy people. Mm-hmm. Don't we all? Don't we all miss happiness? And when's the last time you just had a great day and you didn't let somebody on the internet or a post you read or a news article like take away half your day thinking about it and stewing on it and wishing you would have said this to this person and you don't like what this person said. And it was like when you turn that off, even for like a day, and you're like, man, this feels amazing, then you're going to want that feeling more. And again, I'm not saying it's going to be easy to do, but it's a step in the right direction.
It's really not.
It is!
No, here's...
Sorry, Kim, I'm yelling again.
I love psychology. It's one of my favorite disciplines to study, right? Mm-hmm. But modern psychology isn't psychology at all. Like, it's a racket where, human behaviors aren't really studied in a scientific way. It's all, very activist, very chemical, pharmaceutical, all of that shit. And it just became something that I wanted to be a psychologist when I was going through school. Took classes, and I felt like studying. There's so much sample size to choose from. You could study what makes people behave and act a certain way. Okay, so I'll give you an experiment. Let's just say you and your family went off and went camping, primitive, didn't have any technology, didn't have any tools. You just
already hate it.
Had to survive for like 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
Your brain will recalibrate and rewire itself for different things, right? Mm-hmm. And then you can tell yourself when you're coming home, like, this is a reset button. Like, I do not have to fall in any previous behaviors that I had before I went on my camping trip. I've learned all new skills. Sure, things are going to be easier. We're going to have, instead of starting a fire to cook food, I've got a stove and I'll have the tools. But if I choose to bring anything back into my world, it's 100% by choice. Because I don't have to now. My brain doesn't need it, doesn't desire it, is not hungry for it. But you watch anybody who makes that transition and how the environment and their relationships and the other nodes in their network will bring them right back to the status quo before they learn those new skills. So I give myself that talk every time I go somewhere. That, hey, if I bring it back in with me, then I want it there. And I almost guilt myself into, like, if I had a bad habit before I came back, I went without it for a couple of weeks. And now if I bring it back in, it's because I really want it there. And so, like, you can, and that's sort of like the self-help people and the psychologists get it so wrong, is because they think that you were 1 minute away from making the right choice, right? All you needed was a little bit of information. You would have totally made that right choice. So if I just say the right choice to you, you're going to go home and you're just going to be completely right. But I'm going to tell you, you're going to get inspired. You're going to know you want to make a change, and you're going to get back in your real world with your real friends and your real house and your real, everything that you do with all that time that you invest. And you're going to be the product of everything you were before you had this. You will have one maybe nugget that you put on a bumper sticker every once in a while, but you will be no different because it didn't change anything. Your whole world is exactly the same. Let's see. Have you heard about the bullying issue at Salem? Julie said, I left for Florida and didn't send it. I will. Jerry says it's all about becoming like those you associate yourself. Yeah, we have bad choices. We hang around people that make us worse. And we're either because we want to feel good, right? You know what happens when you join a crowd that's ahead of you? You feel bad because they're ahead of you, and you have envy. You have
feel like you're not very good.
Yeah, and so we feel badly about it, but it's supposed to motivate us to do different things and emulate and learn from and whatever. Instead, we join a group that we're equals, and then nobody's pushing on anybody. Everybody's celebrating terribleness, and then everybody becomes terrible together. So it's just a terrible set of circumstances. But if a psychologist really followed science, right, they would take all of the variables that constitute an end, and they would just tell you what those variables are. And they would make you feel absolutely terrible that you were choosing everything that you were contemplating or dealing with. And that wouldn't make them a bunch of money. I wouldn't go back to them as a psychologist because they made me feel terrible. So they say, they blame your parents, and they blame probably the moon. But right now we're probably astrology and
Mercury retrograde.
Yeah, right. They're probably blaming everybody but you, and they're like, "Oh, it's all of them. Here's your coping mechanisms," and they deliver you coping rather than the skills to actually overcome those.
Well,
things.
it would be an interesting social experiment too. So I'm around you a lot. I would say you're probably somebody I see on a regular basis. How interesting this conversation became. Okay, Kelin, I don't think you're going to make that positive change. I give you until Wednesday and you're going to fail. Do you think the results would have been different if you said, I think that's a great idea and I bet you can do it. On Wednesday, you're going to come in here and you're going to have gone another week doing what you set out to do. And then you're going to do another week and I'm going to be here and I can't wait to hear how great you're succeeding at that.
Oh, yeah. And that's the bullying thing. Like, we are so damn delicate. We've feminized culture completely. And now nobody can hear bad things that make them feel bad. They need to be acknowledged and they need other people to give them their stuff, right? So what?
It's so funny. You said we are so damn, you said delicate, my brain went cynical.
Well, we are cynical, but that
because that was like what I was thinking you would think.
Yeah, right.
Because you
But anyway, so like if you take, what are the functions of a society? We build strength so the warriors can go defend the territory, the skill set that the hunters can get food. We have the nurturers that take care of everything and make sure that there is safety within. And then we were like, hold up. We've got modern technology. We don't have to care about safety. We don't have to care about skill. We don't have to care about nurturing, right? Let's just go out there and do stuff. We'll offload all of our responsibilities to other people, and we'll just try to find some kind of purpose in the void, right? And that's what, I'm not blaming the victims of bullying, but I bet you what would be considered bullying now has no relation to what bullying was even 20 years ago, because kids were harder. They dealt with mean people. They knew how to defend themselves. There were more fistfights instead of gunfights. It's a lazier, apathetic version of becoming a strong individual that can take a little bit, more obstacles and more pushback on, do you want to just go through things and everybody's nice to you and everybody's kind to you? Or do you want to be a survivor who can fight down obstacles and not cry and sit in a fetal position when something you don't like is sitting in front of you? So bullying, like as a parent, you're like, I don't want anybody to be mean to my kid. Me, I'm the opposite. Like, I want my kid to hit everything that they are going to hit in real life. They're defend themselves the same way in real life. It's supposed to teach you how to be strong, not to be some subordinate who cowers as soon as they get in front of something that's difficult.
It also kind of teaches you empathy. I mean, silver lining of it, and I've even told my daughter this, like, as much as it sucks and it hurts in the moment, you will never do that to someone because you now know how it feels. If you want to look on the bright side.
But if we went down the worst, like we're in tribalism, our culture is completely tribal, but we don't have all the good elements of a tribe. So if you had, you were with 4 of your friends and a bully came up to one of you, what the F would happen in a tribe? The bully would get freaking pummeled, right?
It would be
you'd
more
all
people
stand up
versus
for yourself.
one.
Exactly. So your tribe gave you security because nobody can F with you because they were willing to defend you. But we don't do that. We're, like I said, we're soft, apathetic.
Oh, you know what
drones.
we'll do? We'll record the bullying event. We'll put it on the internet. And we'll let two sides fight each other over it until the end of time.
Yeah. So anyway, I didn't hear about the Salem thing, and I'm sorry to kind of dissect it using what we're talking about today.
Kim says, you're just passionate. I am, Kim. Thank you for recognizing that.
Rachel says apparently there are a lot of bad bullying happening there, and the admins are turning a blind eye.
My daughter made a comment because there's a handful of kids in her grade, and it's like the same names I keep hearing over and over again. They're just these little crabs.
Hold on.
But so she said the teachers say it's just drama.
What is bullying? Like, give me the definition of bullying.
Like my personal definition?
Yeah.
My personal definition is, I believe it's when somebody who internally has some issues, they're not feeling great about something, they don't feel good about something, and they're going to outwardly express that in a way that affects someone else. And it could be mean.
That's bullying.
It could be saying mean things. It could be hitting. It could be manipulation. It could be anything that I'm going to make you feel bad by any means necessary. I don't feel good. I don't know how to express this, and I don't know what to do with it. And I'm going to put it on you until you feel bad too. And that could be whatever I think is going to do that. If it's a physical punch because that's the only way to make you feel bad, fine. If it's I can cut you to the core with my words, then that's what I'm going to do. I think it could be different for anybody. It's just somebody trying to make someone else feel terrible.
So and would you say that is the majority or minority of relationships at that age group? So you take a 17-year-old kid, you walk through a high school, you observe how people are communicated with. Do you think bullying happens in the majority, or do you think it happens in the minority?
I think it's the minority.
Really?
I think observing the behavior might be a little confusing because I do see how kids will tease each other and razz each other and push each other around. Like you said, like you and your guy friends say the meanest things to each other.
Is that bullying?
No, I think it's intention. I think the intention behind it.
So what
I
would
think
be
if
the
we're
intention of
razzing you,
bullying?
it's different than.
So if you take somebody who's weaker and you say the same thing that you said to your buddies, but they're weaker, is that bullying versus teasing?
I think it's the intention behind it, and I think it's how far you go. Like saying something that's kind of teasing is one thing, but some kids are downright like cruel, and that is a clear line of bullying. You know, like to me, it's sometimes I think teasing is obvious and it's in good fun, and sometimes it's obvious that you're downright being a jerk to this person. You don't like them. You've made that known, and because you don't like them, now you're engaging. That's totally different than we like each other, but we like to, poke fun at each other and razz each other a bit. I think they're two totally different things.
All right. I think that there needs to be standardization and a definition that is able to be articulated. And if you're if you don't like bullying, like I think a lot of non-bullying things are classified as bullying because, like I said, because of the softness of who gets hurt and whatever. Like if I walked into a school and I just socialized with the different groups and got a sense for how, if this was a environment of kindness and tribal, like uplifting and making people stronger, versus this is a just everybody's freaking so mean to each other, and some groups you're more soft-skinned than other groups, and it's hard to distinguish between what's policeable and what's not, what's too far and what's not. So I was hoping you were going to say something like there was a dividing line, and if it crossed it, then it's all of a sudden bullying. It's definition. It's not a subjective thing where the harder you're hurt, the more it's bullying versus not.
No, I think the harder you're hurt, the more it's bullying can be a thing, but that's not the only thing that makes it bullying. Okay. Again, to me, it's intention, which can be difficult to determine. But again, like if you and Luke and Isaac sat around and just like handed each other insults all day and teased each other, but like Isaac would say, "Oh, but I love you and I'll stand up for you." That's not bullying. You guys are kind of just joking and razzing each other.
So what do you expect an administration to do when bullying's happening? So let's just say I'm an administrator and I run across some kid and he's dirty, doesn't dress well, doesn't speak well, and he's a candidate to be bullied. If anybody calls out that the things that are observable in front of them, do you think it's an instinct to be able to take weaker of you and outcast them and make them feel bad and whatever? Like an administrator, what do you do with that?
I don't think it's an instinct. I think
not?
Now here's where we differ, because deep down I feel like people are mostly good and you think deep down people are mostly bad. And so I think through that lens we see things differently. Okay. If it were just neutral baseline human beings as a species, I don't believe our instinct is to hurt each other. I think this is so cliche. I know you hate cliches, and it's very icky cliche, but the whole cliche of hurt people, I think if someone's natural instinct is to go after a weaker person and tear them down, that's something in them that's messed up. That's a normal, secure, happy person doesn't feel that need. I don't think instinctively.
Well, one of the first things that kids do when they're in, kindergarten is create a hierarchy of people. The faster, the stronger, and we group ourselves into those things. The hierarchy is the first step towards bullying, because if somebody doesn't fit into those categories, they're outcast. And so you can't have both.
Kindergartners, I think a lot of people would agree that at that baseline level, when they're just little, there isn't an intent to be mean. There's more of a natural.
There is these hierarchies aren't taught.
I think the meanness comes with being a kindergartner and not knowing how to regulate emotions and to regulate how you feel, so that manifests outward onto somebody. I'm upset because I wanted the blocks. I'm only a little kid and I don't know how to deal with that, so now I'm going to take my frustrations out on you. Not I inherently need to destroy you. I think it's the opposite. I think a kindergartner would be like, you are also a kindergartner and we are friends.
Maybe kindergarten's a little bit before those brain things start happening, but from that point on, it is hierarchy. And all of us have been in our tribal groups of hierarchy. And if you create a group, then you have people on the inside and the outside. And all bullying would be people that are on the outside of those categories that didn't fit on the inside
and
of those
so
categories.
You don't think that in that natural, innate hierarchy, the people that are higher feel as though they need to protect the weak? You think instead they need to destroy the weak?
Well, if you're on the outside, your tribe is going to defend against the people who are not you. And so there's going to be a natural tendency to those outcasted people are not part of the group.
Do you think it's different for men than women?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So then not all humans have that same mindset.
But it's different. It's the same, but it works itself out differently. Like a guy, because we're competitive with one another, will outperform were to be a competition.
Well, yeah,
right?
Maybe this is why we see it differently, because you're a man and I'm a woman. Maybe I know that biologically I don't have the urge to tear down, but as a man, you may.
You know, in your primitive natural instincts, it would be if you wanted to carry the seed of a man and you wanted to eliminate rivalry from procreation, you would have the same kind of sorting out to make your dominance known, the alpha female.
Yeah, I mean, and to your point, as a mother, I have seen a knee-jerk reaction. If I hear someone is bullying or doing something mean to my kid, my gut reaction is to go after that kid.
Yeah, and what would solve that? Bullying would be solved by the proportional punishment for the outcast. So, for instance, if somebody comes up to me and says, Joe, you're stupid, right? Mm-hmm. And the rules say that if you engage with me, I can engage with you. So I could punch you in the mouth. And then you have to think next time.
Well, that's not equal, though. That's elevating.
No, it's equal.
It's elevating it.
No, everybody knows if you talk shit to someone, right?
Yeah. I'm not saying you would be wrong. I'm just saying
I wouldn't blow them away. Right?
Yeah.
I would punch them in their face. And then the next time, or the people who also feel like they want to say something like that, know that the cost of talking shit is getting punched in the face. So my kid's a little different, where he is really strong. Right? He works out, we wrestle, like he can defend himself physically, but there's nothing in him that ever wants to resort to it. If he had a firearm, he would be, I have it. It gives me confidence.
Is he like Dalton in Roadhouse?
But I'm not going to resort to it. And he built his brain so that he can outmaneuver socially and environmentally using his brain to own anybody, make them look foolish and stupid and whatever. And that is his go-to.
He could be like Dalton in Roadhouse. Be nice until it's time to not be nice.
That's exactly right. And it's the greatest balance. And I think he has it really figured out, where I'm more of a shorter fuse, where I want to go to violence and physical way quicker because I don't want to waste the time on really dumb people who, if I owned them, mentally or psychologically, that they wouldn't even realize that I dominated them.
They're never going to get it anyway.
So I'm quicker to punch than he is. I'm ready to throw down in a heartbeat. But he has the better plan because it's actually effective. Because people at his age group are very worried where they're at in the social hierarchy, and that's what they'll defend more than anything else.
Well, and what's going to make you feel better? I think if he dominates them psychologically, intellectually, and they're too dumb to even know he did, they're not changed, but he is. He feels better.
Right.
Whereas you want to hit them because you want them to know you won.
Yeah.
That makes you feel better. You could walk away and be like, oh my God, I just owned you and
It's
you're too
quicker.
dumb to know
It's
it.
way
You
quicker.
want them to know you just got punched in the face, whereas he's like, I don't need you to know it. I feel better.
Yeah, his is 6 steps minus 1 step, and it's over.
And
it's very
again,
efficient.
6 steps, 1 step. It's over. Both instances, it's over. But in his instance, he's the only one who knows it and feels better.
Right.
In your instance, you want the bully to know it.
Yeah.
And that will make you feel better.
Yeah.
I
And
want you to leave here hurt.
What I'd like to do is have schools, if they have a bullying, which every school has a bullying problem, whether or not it expresses itself, where it takes the messages on Facebook or whatever, if it gets bad enough that it hits that. Every school should teach relationships and social disagreement, and we wouldn't have softer people if they can hear things they didn't like and squash it like that, instead of Joe's punching deal, where I'm just going to teach kids, hey, somebody said something you didn't like, tell them if they say it again, you're going to punch them in the face, and if they say it again, you're going to punch them in the face, class dismissed, right? Mine's an easy class, where these classes could be about disagreeing and talking through things and making consensus and learning how to communicate with other people.
Well, because I think it used to be decades ago, punch him in the face and that ends it.
Right.
I don't think that ends it anymore. I think they come back harder, and then you got to go harder, and then they got to go, and then they want to retaliate. Now you got to retaliate. Whereas your son is like, I feel better, I'm out. That's ending it. And that's kind of my deal with I'm not engaging with the rage bait on social media, because I know they won't get it. It is futile to argue with someone on the internet. The only reason you're in the argument is because they're too dumb to understand any other point of view but their own. So they're never going to get it. So I will, like your son, make myself feel better and leave. And now I'm happy. Whereas if you just punch them in the face and then they retaliate and then you fight again and then they retaliate, who's happy?
That's only because we haven't begun this, where kids don't go through school learning how to communicate and disagree with other people. If we get to a point where schools say, hey, this is something we're not addressing, we're doing the academics, we're suck at that anyway, so might as well build some, communication classes or relationship classes or disagreement classes in there. Make everybody do it, and that way, like, if you introduced it today, you'd scoff. Like, there would be a 0 acceptance rate on how to communicate with people, because most of the kids that are in school are too dumb to realize what you'd even be teaching them. But if you started this year, a first grader, before the hierarchy even had an effect and before the disagreements were whatever, first grade, you start teaching people how to fight. And I'm not saying with fists, but fight as in disagree and still end up with a net benefit. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it used to be schools had like a debate team. It was like an extracurricular. Maybe it needs to become standard, where people learn, all right, we're going to have the discussion. I mean, I had a class where we did this in college, but we could bring it down to a lower level where it's like, here's your topic, argue your point. And the moment someone's like, dude, that's stupid, you're out. You're out, sit down. You didn't know how to actually articulate something you felt. You didn't know how to agree in a way that was in any way productive. You name called and you're out. See how that works? And then here, I choose this. Well, what's your source? I don't know. I just don't like them. That's emotional. Get out. You had absolutely no way to back up your point. All you did is throw emotions at somebody and you ended the disagreement. Sit down. You're out. Wouldn't that be interesting to teach people how to listen, how to engage, how to back up respectfully, and again, end that whole you're a dumb doo-doo head, and that's how we fight.
It's the opposite. My kid's taking a YSU writing class, and they actually have when they do a writing assignment, they have to pick things that are happening in culture, things that are happening in politics. They have a list of topics that are off limits, not even be allowed to talk about, like abortion, like ICE, immigration, these ones that they're not allowed to talk about.
Censored.
So if we are taking our institutions and we're like, there's too much disagreement in this to do this in an academic settings, we are effed if that's the case.
I mean, one of my favorite college professors that we both know, he was a professor of mine when I took a class called Gender Communications, which I found fascinating, which directly relates to, like we just said, your innate desire to do this and my innate desire to do this, and just knowing that and what you can do, knowing that in life. And he, to this day, has said, you could not pay me enough to teach gender communications in this day and age. It is going to be too taboo and too risky. And I'm like, that's sad.
Yeah, that's why I say schools.
That is censorship.
Academia is totally captured where they cannot hear things they disagree with. That's why we like when a conservative personality goes on a college campus, it goes crazy because they can't hear things they disagree with without their souls melting.
Yeah.
And that's a terrible position to be in.
Oh, we've got a lot.
Dan says, when I'm talking with friends, it's good-natured. When she's trying to describe it, it's not good-natured. Jerry says, I think the word bullying has become so blown out of proportion to be inclusive of everything. The act should be spelled out versus collectively called bullying. Kelin, I have to disagree with you, as we are in a culture now where the majority of people are judgmental naturally and want to win and be superior.
A culture we are in now,
yes.
Absolutely. That's why I said baseline human beings as a species, I don't feel, and after discussing it, I think maybe it's just a female biological versus a male biological feeling. I don't know. I don't feel we were born trying to be judgmental and dominate and be superior in every instance. That wasn't life or death. I think our culture now does.
Okay, so you had primitive, then you had safe, and now you have modern. Okay, so when you were in primitive, everything was trying to kill you and everything was bad, and so that's the primitive. That's where we developed all of our instincts. That's where we evolved mentally and physically. And then you had safe, where you started getting to a point where there wasn't a threat every 2 seconds, and you could have cooperation because you couldn't have cooperation because you didn't know how to trust in the primitive state. But now you have some cooperation. And it's kind of nice, and you were making use of it. After you get a couple of generations of cooperation, now you get back into modern, where that's a lot of those primitive things, the untrust, and it's too big, and it's not scalable, there's no standards, everybody disagrees. We're back in primitive. So we either can acknowledge that we need to have our primitive defenses up for the modern version, or go back to the new virtuous, the pilgrim mentality when we started sharing and cooperating and we kind of knew what we were doing.
Yeah, because I can remember, I always think of this example too when I think about us being like primitive animals. When my kids were babies, I went to the store with them one time. I don't know if it was like Target or the grocery store or whatever. And I was by myself with my babies. And I get to my car and I'm loading things in the car and I'm putting my kids in the car and I see someone approaching me. And it was clearly one of those people you see that are trying to beg for money in the parking lots of things and trying to come up to people and panhandle and whatnot. I knew that's what this situation was. And the closer this person got to me, the more I was like, you better stop right now. Like I felt, it still stands out to me, a very animalistic urge to like defend. Mm-hmm. And I told my husband, I said, if I were an animal and not a human, I would have growled. Yep. This is where I feel like I'm about to growl at you. Right. Stay back. I have my babies here. So I absolutely know and understand and feel that primitive urge. I think there are situations culturally in which we can mold into not like quelling that, but maybe understanding the situation and situational awareness to where that's necessary and it's not. I think, but then things change and now we're back to that in an unnecessary way. Like now we're always on edge and we're always fighting and we're always trying to tear down because of outside factors that are now retraining us to feel that way. We're not like in a secure mind place anymore, where I don't need to growl at you or feel defensive the moment. Like, perfect example. We were at the grocery store on Super Bowl Sunday before the game. And we all, me, my husband, the cashier, the person bagging, brought up Super Bowl. Oh, I can't wait for the commercials. Oh yeah, I want so-and-so to win. And the bagger was like, I just want to watch the halftime show. How many people for half of a second went, oh, I know exactly what political side of the aisle you're on. And there was that instant judgment. That has been manufactured in us. Whereas a normal human being in any other decade would have been like, oh, that's cool. I like the commercials. I think outside factors that we have all created are putting us back into that mindset.
But it's a natural tendency. That will happen no matter if it's politics, it'll be religion, it'll be something, because we are
something divisive
creatures, right? That want to be in a tribe. And where there is no tribe, we'll create a tribe and we'll fight against other tribes.
You think that's
just
why we are so easily divided?
I know it's easy to think the conspiracy. In fact, I want to believe that there's some outside force that wants to pit us against one another. But I think we're primitive species that like to fight against other people, like to have people allied in our tribe, and like to fight against other tribes.
Oh, I do think there are people that use that to their advantage, and they manipulate.
But I'm telling you, it's natural. It's not something that's being orchestrated or engineered by somebody else. That's what we become, and it becomes more dangerous as we become more entrenched in those things and have more capabilities to do injury to those other people. Let's see. It starts with parenting. Now, and I kind of disagree with that. We have a choice to make, right? The minute that you offload your kids to somebody else, right? It no longer is the parents are responsible for everything, right? You are paying an institution to be able to take things that weren't done on the parental side. So like a parent, like if you ever been around a kid that's one way around their parents and one way around everybody else? Like they get out in public and they're a different creature whatsoever?
Probably.
Yeah. And so, like, when we're young, right, once we can survive, our job is to go out and create the version of ourselves that's not being parented. And sure, you know, if you can control and make every parent teach the same set of standards to every kid, that'd be great. But the utopia of that's not the case. You got to take a dumb one. You got to take an aggressive one. You got to take a, chemically induced one. And you got to figure out a way to ingrain or, let them merge into society where they're not a liability for everyone else. And so that's more on the bullying side. Why does the person get chose to be bullied? Because they are different, right? The conformity of putting them in institution that's standardizing them to all be the same person. When someone's different from that, the whole group gets the memo that they're supposed to alienate that person because they are different and the same as what works.
What about in the instance that they're bullying because, like, for example, I've seen with middle school girls, the bullying has nothing to do with one girl being different. It's you were with this boy and I like this boy and now I'm bullying you.
That's where women will compete against other women because of that primitive instinct as the alpha male or alpha female for breeding purposes and for that hierarchy. Girls have different hierarchy. Like they will be mean to the people in their group because they're exerting dominance in a different way. Your psychological dominance versus physical dominance. If you don't think guys get on a basketball court and want to be the best on the basketball court, but rather than using the psychological factor, we start shooting hoops and hitting three-pointers and showing our skills, and that's the way that it's more physical. Yours is more emotional, mental.
But why is it? Now, I can relate maybe like playing a game, wanting to be the one who won. I feel better if I outplayed someone and I won. But in a situation of like what the girl has or who she's with.
That's the level of being chosen. Being
but
picked.
I've never felt, I guess other ways. I guess other ways, yeah. Maybe it's just I've never felt that way over a guy a girl has, but maybe other things she's had, maybe like some jealousy or coveting.
It just expresses itself differently, but it's the same pursuit. We want to defend against bears, and you want to defend against competing females. So, Joe, when I went to school, we actually had a health class that covered disagreements, like you mentioned. I think it was very helpful, but at that age, kids don't see it seriously. I was 25. And basically what's happening there is it's a conflict between, most kids are in a struggle to be able to fit in their hierarchy, and they always feel like they're on the border of being kicked out. So there's desperation in what they'll take seriously. Now, there's some kids will take the information seriously because they're not in that group. They're not pressured or threatened to be in that group. And so the ones that will mock it are the ones that are most terrified that their group they just got into are fighting to stay in is going to break down and everything they fought for. Think about it like if you ascended to the top of the hierarchy and all of a sudden someone comes along and says, we're just going to agree with everybody in the hierarchy and your subordinates go away and all the power that you accumulated is going to go away. That's a threat to the dominant. So I would mock it too. if I was already winning the game. Like, nobody wants to be leading the race and then someone come along and say, we're changing the rules on the race. They're already in the race. So I agree with Matt that schools should do it, and they should do it earlier, and they should continue it until they're, I feel like schools should be dictatorships. I don't think kids should have free expression. I think they should go through and be a cog. And, you know, the activists who think that school's all about your expression is dead wrong when it comes. It needs to be conformity, but a conformity to the standards of what lets you integrate and be a productive member of society, not like, hey, go do something and it has no real value and it puts other people in peril and you generate a risk out of it. Let's encourage that, even if it has a destructive, sort of cost to the rest of society.
Well, Matthew says mock trial was the closest thing at Struthers that was close to debate. I don't know how the program is there now, but we went to state when I was in it. Yeah, that stuff's kind of cool too. I don't know if my school had mock trial, but I know I've heard of it. And Matthew, by the way, if you're into stuff like that, I just saw an ad on social media. There's something in Pittsburgh you can go to. It's like a show where you're the jury. They put on some fake trial and the audience is the jury and stuff. But look that up if you're into stuff like that.
And if you're an adult now, and you'll see these interactions between conservatives and liberals. The conservatives will go out to a liberal group, a pride marketplace, whatever, and they'll engage and have conversations. And the problem with it is it's sort of like gotcha. Like, you want to see the conservative make a fool out of the person protesting that they're so stupid. You're not changing any minds, and it's just fodder for more bad behaviors. When you would see somebody like Ben Shapiro go up with a liberal, like, both of them are just trying to own one another and whatever. These aren't conditioning us to get better at disagreeing. These are just getting the people who have more mental structure and more ability to just dominate the other ones.
Yeah, because it's the intention as to why you're going. You're not going for a discussion, for a meeting of the minds, for a let's consider ideas and talk about it. You're going for a fight. I want to go start a fight. I want to engage in a fight. I want to win. So you're a right fighter. You're like, I don't even care what kind of factual information I'm presented with. I will dig my heels in and I will stick with my point until I somehow win. That's a totally different motivation than, hey, I'm going to go engage with these people. You know, like back when I was trying to, before I really wasn't involved in politics very much until we started doing this show. And so what I would do, and I think I even did it to you one year, is when it was an election year, I would be like, hey, here's how I see things. To me, it's very cut and dry. This person seems great and this person seems terrible. And why would you support this other person? Can you tell me about that? What am I missing? Because I wanted actual information. I wanted to know why you feel that way and what you're seeing and what am I missing. Nowadays, it's here's the person I'm with, period. Doesn't matter what they do. You're the wrong one. Doesn't matter what your candidate does. He's the wrong one. And there's a desire to fight and win over the desire to actually gain information and have consideration and have a meeting of the minds.
Well, what does that say to you though? Like we can talk, like, do you like Pepsi or Coke?
I prefer Pepsi.
Okay. I like Coke, not really, but I want to disagree with you. Right?
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to end our relationship over your Coke. Now, do you believe in abortion or non-abortion? Pro-life, murder.
See, now that's you presenting it with a biased tone.
I wanted to get to a line where we can have disagreement and know when it starts to change something primitive in our brain. When I say those words, it was intentional to see what we could disagree on and still be okay with things. But once we get to a certain level, now it's all of a sudden turned in a direction.
I would say my answer to that isn't cut or dry. It would be mostly pro-life, but let me see what your situation is, because I've heard of medical reasons where the pregnancy isn't viable and it's going to die and the mother's going to die, whatever. I'm open to discussion on what pro-life is and what pro-choice is to you.
Okay, so now I will accept that that's how you feel because it has no effect on me whatsoever. I'll disagree with it because I think it doesn't go too far enough. And I'm cool with it. I can leave the conversation and not feel any differently.
Yeah, some people don't like it if you're
now
wishy-washy or down the middle.
I am pro-life. I think every life is precious and it needs to protect it. It needs protected, and I don't care the circumstances. It's still a life no matter what. Now, can you walk away from the conversation knowing that's how I feel and still be okay with relationship?
Yeah.
Okay. Would some other people disagree with that? So that would be my starting point. Lead up to the first disagreement that you're passionate about, that you feel really strongly about, and teach you. Like, I don't need to be taught. I'm cool. Change nothing, right? Two pieces of information. I'm not going to badger you about it because we're not going to agree on it, but I don't feel any differently about you. But take the person now that took a disagreement and can't get beyond it, needs to change something and fight back. They feel personally assaulted by my opinion.
Yeah. And because I think, too, now we're in a culture of you're now a bad guy. You know, I feel like, and again, this is maybe me being a bit of a disgusting optimist. I would say deep down in this political climate, for example, we're in, and all the political fighting over different things, whether it's what happens in Minnesota or who's in the White House, whatever. If you actually listen to somebody, both sides of the aisle are doing what they think is good, is best. It's, hey, I am concerned about these people and I want to help them. And here's how I want to do it. And then the other side is, I am concerned about these people. I want to help them. Here's how I would do it. And then the opposite side is like, no, you're not helping anybody by doing that. You need to help them by doing it this way. And no, you're not helping anybody. My way is helping them. And deep down, they're doing what they believe is right and good. They're doing it in different ways. And instead of us saying, you know what, I understand where you're coming from. I know your heart's in the right place and you believe that this is actually what's best for people. I just disagree with the method, but I appreciate where your heart is. We don't do that. We say, oh, you're not in agreement with me? You're a terrible person. You want to hurt people. You don't care about others. And that's where the argument's done.
Well, and that's why if you don't put disagreeing people in a situation and then tell them the skills, like if you take the New England and Seattle fans and you get to watch the Super Bowl together and you want your team to win and the fans want the other team to win. How do you sit in the same room with the disagreeing? Do you have like an agreement before it where like, hey, we know that if I shit talk Seattle, you're going to get hurt. And if I shit talk New England, you're going to get hurt. So let's not do any shit talking. We'll just enjoy the game and we'll take the things you say when you're alone and amongst people that all agree versus things you know you're going to disagree. I don't want to fight with you because you start losing and I start shit talking New England and all of a sudden we're on the living room floor fighting. Yeah. We don't want to get there. So before the game even starts, let's have rules.
Yeah.
But we don't teach disagreement, so nobody knows what the rules are. Then it's elevated because then I purposely want to stick my middle finger up at you, and then I want to cry when you actually respond to it and give me what I paid for.
And in those rules, I mean, nobody knows why, too. Like Patriots versus Seahawks at Super Bowl. I don't follow football, and I could care less, to be quite honest. I did not in any way, shape, or form care who won that game on Sunday. But I was rooting for the Seahawks. You know why?
Why?
Because when they say, I'm so-and-so from The Ohio State University, or so-and-so said from Warren, Ohio, I went, Ohio people. It's the only tie I have, so I'll go for them.
Okay.
That was it. Sometimes it's, I like the color of their uniforms better. But somebody will hear, oh my God, you're rooting for the Seahawks? You're my enemy. Period. You're a terrible person. And they don't even hear you say, do you realize I'm only rooting for them because I live in Ohio and there's a couple Ohio players? Or I'm a fan of the color of their uniform? Like, if you knew that, you probably would be less up in arms. But we don't listen to each other. We don't know why the other person is doing what they're doing. We just assume you're not doing what I'm doing. You're now the enemy.
David says, blocking your show now, calling us stupid for turning off the Super Bowl halftime show. F off, David. You're
is that
too
a
soft
joke?
To listen to the show.
Was he being facetious,
Yes.
maybe?
Yeah, so was I. Breeding purposes, Kim. Yes, breeding purposes, the feminization. That's why when people speak poorly on Charlie Kirk and Ben Shapiro, it's because they would go to college campuses where students, in my opinion, are not well read in the topics that debate on. They would go there, own the libs, and not to have a real discussion. Even if they did, like, let's just say, and it's really kind of, it condemns academia if you're like, you went to a college and found dumb people. Like, what does that say about academia if all you found was stupid heads?
Well, and again, I would disagree with Matthew. I don't know so much about Ben Shapiro. I've not ever watched his content where he does that. I've watched a lot of Charlie Kirk content. And I would say he does actually have a discussion. He does actually have a debate. Oftentimes he lets them go first. He listens to every word they say before he speaks. And I would never be like, oh, Matthew, you're so dumb. Were you not actually watching the video? Especially now because I know that according to algorithms, Matthew may have seen an entirely different video than I saw. Matthew may have heard him say something totally different than I heard him say. So I would say, well, Matthew, do you have an example? Can you show me something you watched? And can I show you what I saw where I don't see that to be true? And we compare our notes and we see where the other one's coming from. But unfortunately, it's, oh, he just went to the college campus to own the libs. Well, period.
But the thing is, about it is that the conservatives and liberals are so disconnected from each other that what they think about the other one is completely off base and wrong. Mm-hmm. So if you can go there and they think you're a dictator, fascist, unreasonable person, and you hear them speak and find out, oh wait, they weren't anything that I was told they are. The impression would be maybe you lower your guard and think, well, maybe I'm wrong about a lot of other people. Maybe if I got to know them or heard them. And I think that was an advantage. But from the construct of the topics that they were debating, there was no headway made because I could tell you what the person in front of the microphone was going to say. And I also could tell you what Charlie Kirk was going to say. There was nothing new that could ever come of those things. The only thing that was different where their interactions with one another probably changed a little bit in that deal. So, but it's not, you're not affecting millions of people by that and that reason. Well, because think about the people who were talking shit after Charlie Kirk's death. Still felt there's millions of hours of video of Charlie Kirk talking, and none of them cared to go listen to what he was really about, to feel differently about who he was as a person. So it wasn't information, and that's why I say the exercise of it makes great content for them. But not as I still hope they do it. I still hope we get to a point where, even if I disagree with you, I'll welcome you onto my campus. I'll listen to everything you have to say and maybe feel differently about you after you're gone.
Yeah.
Jerry says it's unfortunate that we are in an era where you cannot change the actions of everyone, especially at the K through 12 level when adults... when adults are all over the media being shown as constant fighters in public, the sensationalism of the media shows fighting and protesters versus peaceful protesters. Yeah. More often than not, it's almost a catch-22 when you try to teach minors life lessons, but adults completely throw the good ways to the wind. And it's already, like I said, that seal has been broken. And, proper engineering and psychologists would have told you that if you open that arena where you lose controls of that, this is what it's going to be like. Nobody would have listened anyway, but that's just where we find ourselves. And again, that's why I know there's a lot of natural tendencies in the short term that are being exhibited. We're not being fooled. We're not being maneuvered. This is who we really are. And the epiphany should be that we need controls, even if they're theological controls or controls of standards or ethics or morals. There has to be something that has underpinnings so that when we start acting foolish in large numbers, right, after we've been, opened the fences and we're not contained anymore, like, are we just going to look at the chaos and the anarchy that we caused and say, oh, what are we going to do about that? That'd have been helpful when everybody was still in the gates, knowing what human nature is all about.
And we are so easily manipulated, which is why, again, I go back to this whole, I know I'm easily manipulated. I know if I see a bunch of content and a bunch of rage bait that's going to fire me up, I'm going to get fired up and I'm going to feel that all day. If I see something that validates what I think, I'm going to feel validated. If I see something that I think I really connected with and it made me feel happy and it brought me joy, I'm going to feel joy all day. So if we're already easily manipulated, this is why I'm like, I am going to get off the crazy train of the rage bait and the fighting, and I'm going to hop on the let's be happy and look at puppies and otter videos and home decor all day and tell me what's going to make me feel better. And when I feel better, what am I going to do? Am I going to go out and push someone's buttons and put my views on them and argue and push back about what they say? Or am I going to just say, hey, here's a stranger. I think I'm going to buy him a coffee today. Or, hey, I'm going to smile at somebody today. Or, hey, two different mindsets, manipulated, yes, but what is the benefit of living in each different one?
It's going to take it getting so bad that's going to be your best option. Almost like when we went from dark ages.
That's where I am.
Yeah, we're not there yet. It's going to get worse.
Not everybody, unfortunately.
It's going to get worse.
Which is why I tell people, like, please do this for yourself today. If you are scrolling social media, because to say I'm off altogether is way too difficult. I know I can't. I can't just stop the doom scroll. I do have that addiction, and it's something that is going to have to be baby steps. But if your baby step today is, I will only watch videos of puppies, otters, rainbows, kitties, whatever your makeup, whatever you're into that makes you feel good and brings you joy and is not divisive and not fighting, watch only that content today when you doom scroll. Do not engage in anything. Don't even read. Don't even read that person's post that you know you disagree with. Don't even watch that video that got served to your algorithm. Only the good stuff. And you tell me if by the end of today you don't feel lighter and better and have a restored faith in humanity. It takes like 1 or 2 days and you're already seeing a difference.
Matthew says it's more about why kids are at colleges versus the topics they would debate the students on. I took classes focusing on software development and operating systems. If they tried to debate me on religion, of course they would win. I wasn't there to study that. Well, and that's why you go to the college and you talk to the people who, have the developed brain in that area. I think, first of all, too many dumb kids get into college. I think the standard should be higher, and then higher academics should be just crafted with people that are smart. Like, dumb people shouldn't end up there. They shouldn't qualify to get in. Or at least you should have dumb kids schools and then you have smart kids schools. Secondly, when they do these debates, if you've got an opinion and you're in software development, don't go to listen to politics. Your brain's not crafted in that direction. So go to the software development symposium, not the political summit. Leave that to the people who study it and have invested in it.
Yeah, because again, that's kind of how you're looking at it. You are irritated that somebody came to your campus to debate you on something that you are not savvy with.
Right. And then you got into a microphone thinking that you're smart in a topic, right?
Yes, like I wouldn't walk up to a convention with mathematicians and be mad that mathematicians came to my college campus. I would say, well, when we talk about communications, I'll go to that rally. I don't know anything about this one. I can't be mad at them for being there.
And the hierarchy in a meritocracy is the hierarchy of authority, right? You understand this. I understand this. So if you ever had a question or needed to know how to feel about AI, you would come to me because I'm your authority on AI. You wouldn't get mad about something you know so little about and think that your passion is going to fuel you enough to be mad about XYZ. You'd gather more information from the figure of authority. The problem is that we squashed think of the authority figures that people go through life having, who, whether it be fashion or music or entertainment, like who do we bestow the how I feel about something? Do you think just take random 17-year-old kid? Okay. And this thing infuriates me because it happens all the time, right? Let's just say you had a political scientist give their opinion and Katy Perry give their opinion. Random 17-year-old, would they be more likely to follow the truth behind Katy Perry's opinion or the political scientist?
I'd probably be influenced by Katy Perry.
Katy Perry, right? So if we've taken all of the trust authorities and we've given it over to other brain dead people, now all of a sudden I feel passionately because someone who I look up to and think is wise, which is Katy Perry, all of a sudden I take their dumb opinions and make them my own, and I carry that with freaking confidence.
Yeah, I mean, even too, when you look at Charlie Kirk on the campus, you could say, oh, he wanted to come debate people. And in a sense, yes. I don't think Charlie Kirk was only there to debate. I think he just wanted to give information. And there were many videos you can go back and find where somebody walked up to the microphone just in that state of mind that directly said, I don't know a whole lot about this subject. You seem to be pretty passionate about it. How do you feel about this? Charlie would say, Thanks for your question. I appreciate you asking and giving me a moment to tell you. Here's my opinion. Here's what I feel. Give it to him. Do with that what you will. All right. Good to know. I'll consider that. And you can walk away saying, hey, I just don't buy that, or I'm going to go ask somebody else what they think now. And that's fine. It's, college campuses are a place of information and listening to other opinions and other sources and you take everything in and you learn how to think.
Exactly.
It shouldn't be, let me just tell you everything. It's, let me tell you how to listen to other information and how to think for yourself. And that's what that was. You walk up, you hear information that you were not already privy to, and you go, well, that's an interesting point to ponder. Have a good day.
Yeah. So
on you go.
Structurally, academia has to change. It needs to go back to where it was before. Limited accessibility, way less people there. And make it something that you're proud of. If you take the student body and have what Jay Leno used to do, the man on the street thing where he used to go ask questions.
Oh yeah.
Let that be your audit. If you go through the square and ask a bunch of things that people should know and you get a 50%, your college effing fails, right? Like if you walk through MIT, don't you think that if you ask some technical questions that by default, the level would be up there? Yeah. Why? Because it's really effing hard to get into, and they reserve it just for smart people.
Yeah. Will Flis run against Kovac? Somebody asked.
No.
Absolutely
Flis will not. Run against
not.
Kovac.
Absolutely
Matthew
not.
says, my doom scrolling is so bad, it impacts my gym time.
Yeah.
He said, too many dumb
I
kids
agree.
get into college. What the
F?
Define dumb kids. This is hysterical. So dumb kids.
Wait a minute. Can we pause real quick?
Sure.
Do you see what Kim did there?
What?
And thank you, Kim, for watching. And I'm not trying to call you out in a mean way, but I want to point out what humans do in general. Too many dumb kids get into college. What the F? This is hysterical. There is no, can you tell me what you meant by that? Did I take that in the wrong way? Or I don't really like how you worded that. Here's how I see it. Without any consideration whatsoever as to why you said that and what you meant by that. That was an automatic need. That was a defensive question. That was a defensive way of asking it. When we all can just chill out for a minute and be like, maybe I'm the one that didn't understand.
On Kim's behalf, I translated that down to a curiosity and asking a question. So I answered that question. All right. So you walk into a room with, we'll say 10 kids. The observation of gears turning, you have a capacity for learning, exploration, and curiosity. Out of that room of 10 kids, you probably have 3 kids in that room that have just no capacity whatsoever. They're in the corner, licking a doorknob, doing really dumb kid things, right? Then you have the middle part that maybe have the capacity, they just aren't there yet. And then you have the high capacity where the gears are turning no matter what. You set an orange brick and they immediately want to know what the orange brick is and whatever. So you have 3, in this example, you have 3 different classes of separation. You don't put the super non-capacity, no gear turning kids in with the ones that have high gear turning. You separate them out, segregate them so that they all can have a chance. You have the ones that haven't been inspired, and the major focus is getting them engaged and inspired. You take the low capacity, put them on a treadmill, make some use out of them, make sure that they're not a detriment to society. The problem with college is we made it really easy to get into. We gave everybody the same access. And so we have a lot of really confident, dumb kids that get all the way through and think because they've got that piece of paper on the wall, they can go make decisions and try to add to society. There's too much confidence in that. There's no reality that they're not going to hurt somebody down the road because we put a lever in front of them that have big, there's big complications if they pull the lever wrong, and they pull the lever wrong, and we're curious we wonder why so many destructive things happen.
So do you think a lot of college degrees are in the same realm of as a participation trophy?
More like Taekwondo. You enroll your kid in Taekwondo, right? And Taekwondo, the belts mean everything, right? If you had done Taekwondo?
My kids did when they were little, yeah.
And so what happens is you got this little kid that can barely stand up straight and go through the motions, but then they have this belt ceremony. You're like, oh, it's green belt time. And
by the way, we had to pay for the belt before their assessment.
And
so they're getting
you
it.
kind of know that. So it's not like an achieved thing. It's a belt factory.
Yeah.
Where they help them commit the crime, right? And give them a belt for it. And as a parent, you're like, my kid's really not even that good at Taekwondo. So the green belt is a purchased thing, right? So that's what academics should be reserved for people who are good mentally, good in the mind, good at figuring things out, good at thinking. Not everybody who just wants to buy their belt and then they go think about the green belt that bought his way all the way up, right? And then he gets in a fight and gets his ass trounced. He's like, but I thought I learned Taekwondo. I'm a red belt. That's not good.
I have seen that.
Yeah.
Julie says, this is about where I am at, Kelin. I'm beginning to think ignorance is bliss. And again, yes, it can be. But it's not even so much ignorance. It's get the information and get away from anyone who wants to argue about the information. It's like that old cliche, like protect your peace. You don't have to just like not hear about anything going on in the world. But there is a difference between getting information and just fighting with people about it. Yeah, and I would say just when you get in that headspace as to where you're less stressed, you're less angry, then you can accept things more easily, I guess, and you can disagree differently. Like Julie and I have disagreed on a lot of things on this show, and same with you. But in general, I believe Julie's a good person who only wants to do what's right by people and wants to help people. And I would hope Julie would think the same thing about us. The method we just think is different. I think this way is going to be more effective, and she thinks this way is going to be more effective. That's it. And so quiet the fight then. Quiet the argument and just know that, hey, your heart's in the right place. My heart's in the right place. We just go about two different things and two different paths. We'll get to the same place. And in the meantime, we don't have to raise our cortisol levels discussing it.
Let's see. But that's why this is Matthew says, but that's why when Kirk went to Cambridge, he got stomped. Those dudes know these topics from top to bottom. And Kim said, no, there was a question mark. So she was curious. See, it was a question. I translated it down. Kim also says, I lick doorknobs and my IQ is 147. So any smart person that licks doorknobs, right, is probably doing it to, increase their immune system's repository of known assailants. And so I will give that a genius's version. It's not licking a doorknob because you want to see what it tastes like.
I think smart people know what they lack information in. I think to be like you said, if I go to a mathematicians conference, I'm the doorknob licker there.
Yes
you know, are. And I know that, and I know where I don't possess information, skill, training, all of that. I think that makes you smart when you can see I'm out of my league here. This is not my area of expertise. I'm not angry about it. I just know I've not followed the path you have.
Well, I look at it as you wasted your time at the math symposium when the thing that's in your order, you should have been participating where you can add something.
Yeah.
So it diminishes both sides. You have these blue-haired people coming in, wanting to talk politics, where they don't have the capacity to even be discussing the topic, where they could be doing their lesbian dance stuff and getting super far down that road. They're trying to place themselves in areas that they do not belong.
Yeah, like if you went to the lesbian dance class,
I would not go.
You're the doorknob licker.
So yeah, when I walked up to that microphone, the only reason I'm there is to jack up what should be talked about, and what I'm going to be forced to talk about is I'm going to be more interesting because I'm going to disagree, and I'm just going to pick a fight. I'm going to say things that are unpopular. So which is going to make the symposium better? The true topic that we're talking about, where learned and educated people are discussing it, or the blue hair coming up and just throwing out grenades that they shouldn't even be in the conversation.
Yeah.
Sorry, blue hair people.
Kim says DEI. Yeah, terrible idea, DEI. Carrie says, I love it. We definitely have way too many college-educated idiots.
Absolutely. That is an indictment on all of our society when the people that come out of our institutions answer questions like they do and communicate the way that they do, or can't hold their emotions or conduct themselves
the way that they do. These Epstein files are haunting me. I never wanted to believe these things could happen.
Well, as I told you in the very beginning, you accumulate wealth and power, and you remove virtue from every part of that class of people, and you get people that can do anything and get away with anything. And what do you think happens? It probably happens way more than Epstein. There's an Epstein going on right now, and you don't know it amongst those people.
Yeah. And unfortunately, and I can relate, like the Epstein files in particular is something so horrid. You know, I could see somebody being like, how could you just shut that off? How could you turn a blind eye to that? It's very difficult. And I'm not saying you shouldn't. It is in the past. It happened. We can't go back in time and make it not happen. And like you said, probably still happening. And that's terrible and terrifying. You can collect all that information. You can get everything you need to know to, one, protect your own loved ones, put measures in place to hope it doesn't happen again. Anybody that you think was in any way involved, if they're ever up for re-election of anything, you know you're not voting for them. You can do all these other things that are in your control, but ultimately a large portion of it is out of your control. And you could either continually let it haunt you and fight with other people. And now not only are the bad guys involved, bad guys haunting you, but the people you argued with on the internet are haunting you. And the family member that disagrees is haunting you. And the podcast you watch is haunting you. And now you've got like 15 versus 1. Instead of saying, this is awful, I'm going to do everything in my power to not let that happen again. I don't have a lot of power, but I'll do what I can. And after that, I'm going to go watch some otter videos and protect your peace.
Well, that's where the blissful ignorance and the I'll take the stake things come in. Because here's the thing. We want to know everything. We want to have information. And as soon as we know what things are really like, we recoil because it's not what we had in our mind how things are like. You want to think that everybody's out there just trying to take care of themselves, trying not to hurt other people. What if you found out the majority of people, because we're a small country. We're just a small country in 8 billion. So 350 million here, 8 billion people, all on different playbooks. Would you say that the way that you feel is the standard and most people are like you? Or would you say they're a minority and most people are nothing like you?
Oh, I'm probably the minority.
Okay, so are they the enemy? If you have a group of Christian people, and do you think that everybody who's not Christian is different enough from you where you have to defend against people who are not working off the same rule book that you are?
Like they're my enemy automatically?
They would be a threat. Right? Everybody who is not you is a threat. That's what we're taught in the hierarchies. Outside is bad, and as a threat.
I don't think everybody who's not me is a threat. I think I can learn from people who aren't me because they see things differently than me.
In an ideal world, yes, but that's not real. This is what I want to encourage everybody to do. Okay? So I do a lot of working with other people in other countries, different cultures, right? In scenarios where we're doing the same thing, but there are different people on the other side of the monitor. And what I want you to do is just dig in to the scammer world or the Bitcoin world or the dark web world, somewhere where you can do a simple function, but get to meet the other people on this other side of the transaction. So if you do like eBay, right? You don't know the person on the other side. There are good people on the other side. There are scammers on the other side. And get to know, we'll use my scamming segments. I got to talk to a lot of scammers. So they try to scam me. I'd do a honeypot where I'd set myself up to be called or call one of these scammers, and they go through their pitch and whatever. And I'd do a reveal at a certain point, and I would say, hey, listen, I'm just here to waste some of your time. Tell me why you do this. I want to know and get to know you. And the things that would come out after they dropped their guard and they just told me how they really feel, they knew they weren't getting any money from me, they weren't going to be able to scam me, how they really felt. There was nothing that was congruent or could work with my ideals. Would I ever, knowing that if somebody had money, that I just wanted to take it from them? Like, do I have a bitter hatred because you're, further ahead in the race than I am? If I ruined your life, would I care? Do I have any empathy to the person that I'm scamming? Like, if you have none of those ideals where they are in a space where they have to look out for number one, and everybody else is just a mark. You're ahead of me, so I'm going to try to get something from you. Watching the lack of empathy and the lack of virtue from a majority of the people that I dealt with in those spaces opened the world to me. Because
They're sociopaths.
Yeah, but if that is the majority, if you live on a planet that is comprised mostly of sociopaths, and having culture that is, humane and, has some virtue and morality to it, that has to be cultivated by doing things. What you'll notice is when things get bad, they invent something that creates they engineer that cultivates good behavior. And if you don't do that, it's all bad behavior. Well, what do we do in the United States? Do you think we're cultivating and giving reasons and methods to create better behavior? Or did we just open the gate and say, hey, the world is that way, so let's all be that way too? That's why I say it's going to get worse, because there's nothing bad enough. No structure has fallen that we are continually pushing back the conservative values, the traditional values, until we will be no better than the competitive worlds outside of our borders. There are countries that are closer to us culturally, but there are far more that are so different from us, right?
Yeah.
That we're not going to hem this one back in after it gets out.
Yeah, like we could think something is awful and terrible and bad, and someone else, that's just Tuesday.
Yeah,
like, that's what we do.
That's exactly right, and that's why the shift when you see some of those other cultures, it's your group is not as big as you think it is, and that is a desperate feeling. You do not feel good when I'm surrounded by a bunch of people that will think nothing of ripping me off, robbing from me, killing me, and I will not be able to psychologically own them because they don't have a soul that will even notice what they did or care about it.
And that's kind of why I said when I choose to protect my peace and disengage from things, because I know this entity, this person, this post, this comment I'm fighting against is so futile to fight with. They don't get it. They're not going to get it. Sometimes maybe they're benefiting by fighting with you. So it doesn't even matter what they think. They're going to say the opposite. So why? Why would you continue to make yourself miserable to stay in a fight that is going to go nowhere? Get off the crazy train. Check out. I'm done. I'm off this ride. I'm going to go do whatever I have to do to be happy. I have one life, 750,000 hours, whatever left that I could either
200,000, by the way.
Yeah. Push back against what I already know. We're all going to be flawed. We're all going to be sinful. We're all going to do the wrong thing. We're all going to try to be divisive. I could spend my hours pushing back against that in any way I can, but keeping my peace and living out my days being happy. Or I can continue to go down the futile drain of despair for no reason at all.
So here's our solution. And parents out there listening, and anybody who listens to this on YouTube, here's exactly what you need to do if you want to spare your bloodline from this futile pursuit. Right?
Yeah.
So here's number one is stay in your lane. Right? Mm-hmm. So I'll have arguments with people in physics. Do you know the arguments in the physics? You don't have some brain dead person that ever goes to those territories and starts arguing physics. Like we're talking about, propulsion and the aerodynamics of a ship and whatever. And there's some heated debates that go on, but the people that are in it are not brain dead. So it doesn't resort to your.
They know what they're talking about.
So here's the thing. We felt like it was a good theory to give kids confidence going into their pursuits. You can do anything. What you need to do is do some real talk. You need them to be confident when they deserve to be confident. And when they're not confident, they need to train up so they can be confident. You don't want to give confidence away for free just to make people feel good. You need your kid to know that if they're confident about something, it's because they're actually good at it. So if they're wasting time sitting on the bench playing baseball, pull their ass out of there and go have them do something they can get really, really good at. Once you've hit that line where, they've reached their pinnacle, right? They've peaked at this point. Put them on something where they can be good at, and stop telling your kids that they can go up to a microphone and try to talk smart to somebody who's way better than them. They need to go to their own physics people and talk in front of that microphone, and they get something out of it. We need to have people just cast away this "you can be anything" thing. It's not the case. You're giving them a false sense of security. You need to have them reined in and let them know if they're outside of their vein and outside of that lane, they need to get in the lane. Find out what their lane is. That's fine. But don't stay there. If you're not good enough to argue there or be a person of authority there, pick something else where you can be good at it. There's the encouragement.
Yeah, it's funny. I have a good friend of mine, and I would put you sort of in the same category as him. You guys are very, very intelligent, book smart, all kinds of stuff about just science and math and education in general. And I would never be in your lane. But he would often tease me, especially when we were younger. He would make little snaps and basically call me stupid. And I'd be like, oh, really? Let's now go in a social situation. Off the cuff, on the fly. We're going to go and mingle and interact and make small talk and be in a social situation, and you can't be weird. Now who's the dumb one? Like, you can't do that, can you? Like you said, everybody has their strengths. Everybody has their weaknesses. Be smart enough to recognize that. And like you said, thrive where you're going to thrive. And if you're in a lane that you're not thriving, you don't then say, you're stupid because you can't do this. This isn't your lane.
And let's see, Julie said, no. Thank you, Angelina. Kelin, 750,000 is 85 more years. I'm sorry, but I won't be able to listen that long. He's got to go to work. So thank you, Jerry. Matthew says, I got to disagree with Joe on this. You can do anything, but it requires the effort and dedication for what they want to do. And that's exactly right. It is merit driven. So let's just say, I decide to pick a lane that I want to get really good at. So I dedicate myself to learning everything and becoming expert in that lane. Now that's my lane. I didn't have that. Curiosity wound me up. And through education, you're supposed to sample a lot of different things. And one of them, would be physical. One of them would be mathematical. One of them would be social. Like, there's different expertises that you can pull down and get to be the expert in that field. I think we have a lot of no experts that go through academics. They never pick a lane whatsoever. They dabble in all of those lanes, so they can never be truly great in any one of them. They just have this bobbing existence. So when I say you cannot be everything, you can pursue anything and figure out whether or not it's for you or you're going to be any good at it. I don't think anybody should serve their 85 years on this planet doing something they can't be exceedingly good at. But I think because we want everybody to qualify, we end up diminishing the race, and we give people a false sense of security. Because the more dumb people we have running the marathon, and you have a group of really slow people running the marathon, you feel like you belong there. When the guy that won beat you by 2.5 hours, you shouldn't be there. You should pick something else where you can do a better than average job at. Right?
Yeah. And again, I think this will also contribute to what I'm saying is the whole feeling better. Like Matthew mentioned earlier, his gym time. He can probably relate if he's someone who works out. Like, if you've ever had a terrible day and you're in a bad mood and you get a workout in, what happens? You get hit with endorphins. Day doesn't feel so bad anymore. You actually feel a little better. You feel happier. Do that every day, Matthew. Like he had talked about doom scrolling, cutting into gym time. Put your phone in your car. Don't have it. Focus on the workout. See how your brain feels differently. Do it again. See how your brain feels. Do it again. See how your brain feels. Get to a point that you are flying so high that all the other bullshit that keeps you feeling bad isn't really a thing anymore, and you show up in the world differently. When you stay in your lane and you feel good and you feel confident and you know the difference into where you're thriving and where you don't, and you're okay with that, and you feel good, you show up differently and you put out different things. Have you ever been around someone that is so clearly in a good mood and someone who's so clearly in a bad mood and you feel differently with them? Like, if somebody could do everything in their power to radiate, I'm in a good mood and I feel good, that actually does change the space you're in. And people act differently. I think knowing is half the battle. Feeling is the other half when it comes to changing anything. And yeah, I think like Matthew said, you can. These things are possible to do. Gonna be hard as hell in this culture, in this climate, but doable.
we reinforce bad like the participation trophies and the Taekwondo belts, we reinforce that we give you the benefit without the merit of going through there. And so we keep everybody feeling like they belong in something because there's no true audit whether or not you are actually any good at it. So we keep people engaged in it. Like if I sat the bench for more than like 5 innings, I'm picking a different sport. Because if I'm not going to play doing all the practicing and being on the bench, sorry, I'm not there. But let's just say they started swapping people out and forcing it like they did in 4th grade that everybody gets to play. I would really never know if my team was any good, right? Or if I was any good, because they're swapping players based on we want you to play rather than we want to win games.
How do you feel about in sporting events and teams when they adopt this idea of, okay, everybody gets this certificate. You played. You showed up, you tried, you committed, you didn't quit. Here's something. Now, here are the 5 players that were our MVPs. They really excelled. They did really good things. Now here's their trophy. You're being recognized that you put your all in, you quit.
That would hit my butt.
Or you didn't quit.
I would know that I'm not any good.
You would know I tried something, I went out on a limb, I didn't quit.
That's right.
And that's
that was your achievements. And so now
but these
on your
people
thing,
were good.
At least I have the ability to stick through something, and that's all I know. I wouldn't have been put on the field if it wasn't forced. I'm no good at it, and I'm going to use the skill sets that I learned about myself and go in a different direction.
Yeah, because I love that idea rather than nothing, only because I teach my kids, if you signed up for something, you're doing the season. Like, you cannot quit. These people are relying on you to be there. They don't have enough team members if you're not there. You better go and you better try because you put yourself out there. And I think we should not be afraid to put ourselves out there. Like walking up to the person on a college campus discussing something you know nothing about, you might learn something. You might find it interesting. Or at the very least, you'll have an appreciation for others who do know about that. I'm so glad my doctor knows what he knows because I don't, and I might need him one day. So here's a little something to encourage interaction, listening, and consideration in trying something and being supportive of others. And then here's a little more for those that really excelled in that particular field.
Now, a little exception on that, if you poll the kids and say, hey, should my kid quit? And they all agree that, yeah, your kid should quit.
All right, then you give them a free pass. Yeah. If everyone's like, dude, you know what? It's going to be better for us if you leave, then that's different.
But what builds curiosity? No one is born wanting to do things with computers without having something that builds the curiosity. I think we should have more programs in the U.S. that allow kids to find things that make them curious and find what makes them confident. That is my challenge to academics. We do not need conformity academics where we figure out and tell people what they need to know. We need to have curiosity academics that feeds people's curiosity. So exposing you to something, if you take interest in it, you go gangbuster on it. If you don't really care about history and it's not going to do you any good, why waste time getting a grade so you can move on to the next thing when you sacrificed an entire quarter or year learning something that you just did it because you had to, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm with Matthew that academics, schools are effing terrible because they are engineered for the lowest common denominator. The reason that they're the way they are is because they're constituted of all dumb kids, like mostly dumb kids.
Well, and encourage curiosity. Like, man, I can think off the top of my head 2 or 3 instances that somebody approached me with an idea, and I would have been like, "You've got the wrong person.
Right.
I am in no way that. I don't know anything about that. I will never be that." And then I spend the next several years doing it, and liking it and learning about it. So you sort of have to have the curiosity to accept that you could also learn something new. Like when you approach somebody on a college campus talking about something you know nothing about. Don't go going, "Oh, they're coming here to fight me. They want to own me." Go there and be like, maybe I will find this interesting. Maybe that's something I never even considered. And when I hear more, I'm like, oh, I could do that. I understand that.
Yeah, and that's exposure to all those different things. By the time you reach 4th grade, you should have had exposure to different areas of curiosity.
So yeah, I'm with Matthew. Let's change the subject from dumb people. What's your opinion on the Nancy Guthrie case?
I blew it off when Kelin first brought it up last week.
I tried, Kim. I tried to bring it up.
I don't know. I mean, we'll see what happens. But again, we pay, she was probably taken because of her status, because of her influence and wealth. And I don't know. We'll wait to see what happens. I don't have a real strict opinion because I disregarded it to begin with.
Yeah, I started watching it, and I do still, like I saw yesterday, the FBI released pictures and video footage of the kidnapper and all this stuff. And I started watching it. And again, one of the reasons I sort of pulled back from it is my practice of protecting my mental health. Because one, I can't do anything about it. And two, I started to see incredibly cruel, evil comments on some of that content. Just people saying the meanest, most ignorant things about the situation. And so that's when I was like, I'm done. I will hear what is going on. I will hear the progress the FBI is making, and I will pray for Savannah Guthrie daily. And then I'm putting it away because when you go down a rabbit hole of these horrific things, unfortunately, with the internet, all you're going to find are people fighting about it and making it about their argument now. And it's just, again, it's one of those like slippery slopes of ruining your day content.
It all comes down to resources. Kids without good training resources will never excel. That's why our countries, cities, states need to give kids the resources to succeed, even the poor ones. I don't really think it takes resources. I mean, yes, if you spread it out and you force everybody to school and you take the unionization of academics, it's a very costly thing. Now, if I were just to say, hey, we got my village and I want to pick the 10 smartest kids to go to smart kids school, and I want to pick the medium ones, send them to Curiosity School, and I want to send the low ones and low kids school and whatever. And that we had to pay for it. And, those kids and how they'd affect our future generations in our village, we would have a hand in. We would have a lot of say in. And if I disagree with how they're being taught, there's a lot of presuppositions in that. Is it being done well? Is it being cost effective? Do they come out with something of value after spending all that money? I would take a wrecking ball to the entire thing right now and remake it with modern technologies and with the ambition. Like, what we would really want to get out of spending money for education would be placement to help our own village. So I agree with you. It's hard to do that now. You're almost sunk into it where it's cost so much. And if you changed anything, it would take the poor kids, just like we're doing in, what's that called, where you're allowing kids to bail on their home school and go to a different school.
Like open enrollment?
Yeah, open enrollment. And all that really happens, this is the slow version of the Band-Aid rip, right? We know that these schools are doing a terrible job. We're giving them all this money. We're giving the kids that actually want to be there a chance to bail on those schools, saps more money from them. They get even worse, and eventually it's gone. Nothing. It's not even worth doing because all that's left there is people who don't want to be there anyway, right? The good thing would be like, we have all of the infrastructure. We have all of the talent and educators. All we have to do is change the purpose of why we're there and start in kindergarten, and at least those kids will be saved from having this still be a problem in 50 years.
Yeah, that to me is the biggest roadblock I've ever seen. When you talk about like giving kids resources and equal opportunities, to me, that's the biggest roadblock I saw is if you have a kid that truly wants to be there and wants to learn and wants to pay attention, but they're in a school of like...
Get them out of there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Then let them leave the disruption, the dangerous school, the school where they're always fighting, they're not paying attention, and let them go elsewhere where they can actually get that. Yeah. I would agree with that.
Matthew also says, I got to disagree with Joe. I don't want people with bachelor's degrees to know zero about history as a country. There are baselines that I think should be met in many areas. And that's a thing. Like, I think it's too soon after, because we're doing the, different curriculum. I think we're doing curriculum incorrectly, where instead of teaching kids how to think and discover and be curious on the very beginning of their career, that when you're doing history, like go take a college or a high school graduate with history
and ask them questions to see if they got out of it what the real purpose of learning history is. Like, you teach the history so that the things that happened that were great were not so great, you don't repeat it, and the things that you should learn of constantly, that building into your culture for the futures, and it, like, you got to have a purpose for leading, and the person learning it has to know that's what the actual purpose is. I don't think you're ready for those until way later on. So once you've picked your land and you get specialization, then you take the standards and you start ingraining the things they need to know about those. So let's just say you get to 10th grade. Do you think you could take what you would have learned from kindergarten until 6th grade and wrapped it up in like a 10-hour course by the time you get to 10th grade, right? Pilgrims are this, and Plymouth Rock, and civil rights, and all of
photosynthesis.
That. You could have wrapped it up in a 10-minute YouTube video of everything you needed to know up to that point. But yet we took all of that time teaching about history, and you got nothing out of it. So might as well do a review when you're in 10th grade. So I agree with you that I don't think we should be void of history or void of any of those non-specialized standards topics. I just think we should do it later after we've taught them how to learn.
Oh, do you want that one?
Which one? Carrot? So who are you two?
Do you have your own show I can follow?
Every day. We do shows here Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, opposite of the MLO Bros. So if you can catch us Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, you can catch Joe, that's me, and Kelin, that's her.
Did you see up like way early in our show? You don't have to scroll back because it was a while ago. I don't know if it was Carter, maybe, or Jerry, or one of our usuals said, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, you really learn something and have a discussion. Tuesday and Friday, not that.
Yeah, it's definitely different. But hey, that's the variety of life, right?
Yeah.
Jerry says, Joe, it would be great to see what your idea of perfect curriculum for K through 6 is, and
what 7 through 12 is.
Yeah, I would love to orchestrate that, and that would be you would need a group think, every discipline represented there, everything from athletics to history to chemistry, sciences, all the way through. And, sort of because you have a group of different capacity levels, it would really be tough to put curriculum together that applied to all of those groups. I think teachers would even warrant it. If you were able to segment out and separate kids by their capacities, then what you are able to teach them would be, amazingly easier. But if you've got to have a low capacity kid and you're trying to talk about chemistry, think how difficult that is for an instructor and how robbed the smart kids are, right?
Yeah.
In my kid's school at MCCTC, within one group, they have standard and advanced. And in the same room, they are given different work depending on which class that you're in, and they're taught separately, even in the same classroom. And I think that's amazing. I mean, I'd like physical separation so that the disruptions from the lower group of thinkers wouldn't affect the people that were really on a trajectory. Because if you could wrap up, like my kid's taking college classes in 10th grade, right? Because we put him on a path from time he was in preschool, that his schools allowed him to pick some favorite topics and just accelerate as far as he wanted to go. Never hampered with hey, that's 4th grade work. We can put 4th grade work in front of you. He just kept able to blast through all of those would-be obstacles that a public school would have given him.
Yeah. I think we only have a few minutes left, but I did have another topic I wanted to pick your brain on, because again, speaking of staying in your lane, this is your realm of AI.
Okay.
You've probably seen lately all over social media, people are doing this Chat GPT caricatures. Yeah. Have you seen those? Mm-hmm. It took me days to figure out how to do this. I couldn't even figure it out. I'm like, why is it not working for me? Am I this dumb? And then I realized apparently it was Chat GPT's server was running slow because everybody was doing this. So it made me feel better. It wasn't just me being an idiot. But I made a few and it was fun. And I started to see, all these people on social media were making these caricatures of themselves with their jobs. And look how fun this is. And we're commenting, oh, that one really looks like you, or they nailed it, or that's funny. And I'm like, thank God we're going on something now that isn't fighting, that we found something that is just going to be fun and lighthearted. And then immediately I started seeing angry posts about, oh, sorry, Matthew, we'll get to you in a sec. How terrible this is, because it's using the Earth's resources. And I'm like, what? What? And so somebody was like, sent me some Google information about like AI and data centers use like 30% more energy than other forms of energy. And it's wasting water and all this other stuff. What is going on with that? Is there any truth to that? Is making a caricature out of ChatGPT somehow wasting our Earth's energy and resources?
It's using more. So all of the AI agents use cycles. They go out and fetch data, and everything they fetch requires data to be served. And as you get up to a capacity, they have to extend it, turn on more servers, consumes more power, and then whatever. So that it's almost like email, right? You receive 1 million messages per day, and you only fraction of a percent are legitimate email. So you can make the argument that email, all of the stuff that shouldn't even be there anyway, uses so much compute power. Where if it was just the 10 emails that you really sent would use 1% of the capacity, server capacity and the energy capacity. But since there's 95% of stuff that shouldn't even be there, it's using more electricity because you'd be able to use less servers and have less compute and have less processing on those things. So it's more of the same in the digital realm. The more things are used, yes, the more expense in electricity and resources that have to be thrown at it.
So there's some real information there as to how you can tie making your ChatGPT caricature to using more water.
If you weren't doing those caricatures, agents would be doing just different compute cycles. So no big deal. Now, if it happened in a long spurt and then permanently they had to increase capacity to respond to, now people are using it for image creation, video creation, and whatever, you can make that argument, but that's in the aggregate. That's not your caricature didn't cost any more, but you and 5 million other people, it probably costs a little bit.
What was so interesting, though, what ticked me off about it, and luckily when I started seeing it, I shared it with a friend who then kind of said, actually, I just heard this. And I was like, oh, wow, I didn't know that. And it was very civil. But then you start seeing all these posts almost bashing people like, oh, my God, I can't believe you, blah, 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 because you're using. And I'm like, don't you for 2 seconds act like this was common knowledge. And that's where social media ticks me off. Oh, we all are suddenly scientists. We're all suddenly political science majors. We're all suddenly historians. And all we do is bash someone. How could you not know that character could somehow use more Earth's resources and that data centers are using 30% more energy than it was? And I'm like, don't act like you even knew that yesterday. You did.
So it forced evolution, though. Usually when we put ourselves at those levels, that the marketplace adapts and creates a new solution. So rumor is that Elon Musk is going to send 30,000 satellites to low Earth orbit, and they're all going to be orbit-based solar collection. And so they basically take the solar collection. It doesn't have to pass through the atmosphere. It's more dense. I think it's 10 times the amount of power that comes down there, times 30,000 of these satellites. And then they basically concentrate it into a laser and beam the energy down to a ground station on the ground. So instead of having to build nuclear facilities and whatever, power consumption. So that's the power side of things. The water is still... by the way, these satellites that are up there, they're also going to have data centers attached to them, right? And so instead of sending the energy down to the ground, right, the data centers are going to be up there, and now they just have laser communication. They don't have to be...
1 minute.
Oh, all right. that could have been a half a show conversation.
Yeah, we'll touch on that maybe tomorrow again.
All right. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks, everybody, for joining us.
Thank you for listening to this show on Youngstown Studio. This is original Youngstown content. Feel free to share our videos and tell your friends about us. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook.